Hello everyone, my name is Mark Engelmann and I am a co-founder here at Beepo. And in today's webinar, I'd like to talk to you about how to maximize productivity in your outsourced team. Now, this webinar is highly appropriate to businesses that are thinking about offshoring or just starting their offshore initiative, as well as existing those businesses that already have existing offshore teams. I want to cover off the things you need to implement when you first start to ensure long-term productivity. But I also want to talk about some things that you can put in place that should happen regularly to really make sure and make certain that that long-term productivity continues. So the first thing I'd like to talk to you about are JDs and KRAs, and that's simply job descriptions and key result areas. Now, we want to make sure when we're offshoring that we step off on the right foot, okay? And we want to have things right the first time. So the first place that people can often fall down is in the job description and the KRA. So you need to understand in your business exactly what tasks you want to offshore, and you need to translate those tasks into a job description. One thing that I will say is that those tasks should be as specific as possible. Now, look, it's fine to have a catch-all at the bottom of the job description saying, something like, and any other tasks that are deemed appropriate for this position. But for all of the tasks outlined, be as specific as possible, just so that you and the employee or the staff member are all on the same page and there's no gray area. The key result area is something that you may or may not be familiar with. It's often included in the same document as the job description, and it basically lists a whole bunch of success measures or key performance indicators. And each one of those KPIs or key results areas, or whatever acronym you want to use to describe it, is associated with one of the tasks in the job description. So say, for example, you're a real estate agency and you want to offshore the task of assessing new tenancy applications. So in the job description, it might say responsible for assessing new tenancy applications. Key results area might say processing 20 or 30 or 40, whatever's normal for your office, new tenancy applications per day with a 99% accuracy. Now, the key here, and something that's often overlooked, is it should be quantifiable. If it's not quantifiable, then you're introducing grey into the area, into the KPI. And where there's grey, and where there's not just black and white, where there's grey, that means there's room to negotiate, room for confusion, if you ever have to have a discussion around performance. So my tip here is try and keep it quantifiable. Training. This is always a big one that customers always question. How am I possibly going to train someone in the Philippines who lives in a different country, across borders and overseas, thousands and thousands and thousands of kilometers away? Pretty easy, actually. It's pretty easy. As long as what you want them to do is something that requires work on a computer, then technology today makes training really, really simple. Before we go into how we do that, let's talk about remote versus face-to-face. So yes, remote, like 95% of our customers train their staff remotely, and that works really, really well. We do it all the time with our internal team at Beepo. It's easy to do, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Face-to-face, some of our other customers, they think it's important that they fly to the Philippines, spend time in our office, spend time with their team, their new team, integrate them into their business, do face-to-face training, sit with them, and that's perfectly fine as well. Our office is set up to accommodate clients, and we actually actively encourage clients to come over, although it's not a necessity. And Clark's an easy place to get in and out of with an international airport, and there's 5-star accommodation there, and it's very easy and comfortable to do for around about $2,500 per week, and that includes flights and accommodation. However, let's talk about remote. So there's some technology available at the moment that we use a lot of in the business, and one of those pieces of technology is called Zoom. And Zoom is at its core a web conferencing tool, but it's got some really great functionality that enables us to do remote training very easily. And that extra functionality is screen sharing and recording. So what allows us to do? It allows us to have a web conference with our offshore team members. It allows us to share what's on our screen. So if we are teaching them how to undertake a task or process within a software application or a computer system, we can log into the system, we can share what we see on our screen with our offshore team, and we can talk them through how to do a process. But not only that, we can also record that whole event, that whole training event, and it also records not only the video but also our audio commentary. So we can then record that, it gets saved as a video file, and then you can upload that to the cloud, and your offshore team then has access to that video resource all the time as a reference item that can help them learn that process. The other good thing about screen sharing is it's not one-sided. Your offshore team can share their screen with you. So if you want to check their understanding of the training, they can share their screen with you, and you can follow them complete a task as per your training. So that's great to check their understanding. And then the final part of the puzzle is written procedures. Often businesses don't have written procedures, or they don't have current written procedures, and it's often something that business owners worry about a lot, because they always wonder, oh gee, what if this staff member leaves, then we're going to have a hole because no one else knows how to do that particular person's job. The good thing about this process, this training process, is that you get your offshore team to watch the videos and learn from the videos, and then the final step in making sure that they understand how to do that process is you get them to write a written process document based on the training videos and based on their own practice of those tasks. And that's a great way to consolidate their understanding and really make sure that they understand the ins and outs of those tasks that they're doing. In terms of timeframes, look, it can differ. How long does it take to train an offshore staff member? Personally, I don't think it takes any longer training an offshore staff member than it does someone in your office. But I've been doing it for a while. Maybe plan for 1.5 times the amount of time you would expect someone in your office to pick up a task and to learn new tasks. 2 pieces of technology that work really, really well as Snagit and Zoom. I've spoken to you about Zoom. Now, Snagit at its core is a screen capture tool. So it doesn't do web conferencing, but what it does is it captures whatever's on your screen and it records it, whether it's as an image file or as a video file. So again, if you're back at work late or you haven't had time to do any remote training across Zoom with your team, you can use Snagit to record in your own time after hours training videos that then you can upload to the cloud so that they're available to be watched by your remote team the following morning as soon as they get into work. It's a great piece of software. Both of those pieces of software have free and paid versions, and the paid versions are both roughly $50 to $60 subscription per year. So very, very cost effective. They deliver a whole lot more value than what they cost in terms of money. Work in progress documents. So again, this is just a piece of gold, and it's something that you can implement with your local staff as well as your offshore staff. And it's simply a spreadsheet. And at the top of each column, it has those headings: who allocated you the task, what's the task description, when was it allocated, when is it due, what's the priority, what are the blockers, so what's preventing you from completing the task, and any notes that the staff member might have in relation to that task. And what you basically do is when you send a task to someone, so you might forward them an email and go, hey, can you action this? Your staff members have been trained to automatically put that task straight into their work in progress document. So it should be a catch-all for everything that you've asked your offshore team member to do. And then when you catch up with them, obviously you'll catch up with them probably daily in the first couple of weeks, and then that'll stretch out to every couple of days and weekly from there forward. You just pull up the WIP and you go through the WIP document and go through each task and each heading, and it really makes managing people a whole lot easier. And before I forget, if you do want a copy of a WIP template, a work in progress document template, then send me an email and I can send you one, no problems at all. So in relation to the WIP document is the actual catch-up meeting, and how do you run that catch-up meeting? So I've sort of created this Beepo catch-up framework, and I tried to simplify it as much as possible. And basically there's 3 steps to it, and steps 2 and 3 kind of are a bit cyclical. But the first step is to record the task in the WIP document that we just spoke about. And the second part of the meeting is to monitor progress. So how's the staff member going? Are they going to hit their deadline? Ask them questions about, tell me exactly what you have done in terms of completing that task up until now. What steps have you undertaken to now? And what steps are left before you complete that task? So you need to get quite specific and drill down and ask them, what's preventing you from completing this task? Is there anything that I can do to help you? And then coach to deadlines. So are you actually going to do all of that remaining part of that task prior to the deadline in this WIP document? If not, that's okay. Let's stretch out the deadline, or let's change the priority of this task because you've got a whole bunch of new tasks that have come in and it's kind of slips down the line a little bit. And then that's cyclical. So you coach the deadlines, monitor progress, coach the deadlines, monitor progress, and you just go around and around and around until the task is completed. And if the task never gets completed, then you've got to ask yourself, well, was that task ever meant to get completed? Is it high enough priority to be completed? Or is the staff member capable of completing the task, in which case you may need to engage in some kind of performance management process. So guys, there are my tips on how to maximize productivity in your offshore team. Again, feel free to jump on our blog. There's heaps of information on there about our outsourcing to the Philippines and how you can get the most out of your offshore team, because after all, that's why we're doing it, is to add great value to our business. I've got my phone number and email address there. Feel free to give me a call, send me an email if you have any questions whatsoever about any of the information I've just gone through in this webinar. Thank you for your time.